The brave little star. In the vast expanse of the universe, where stars twinkle and galaxies swirl in a cosmic dance, there was a small, seemingly insignificant star named Lumi. Lumi was no bigger than a speck of dust in the grand tapestry of the night sky, but she held a heart larger than the sun itself. She was born in a nebula far from the bustling stars of the Milky Way, a place where light and darkness mingled in a constant, ethereal ballet. From the moment she came into existence, Lumi was filled with a sense of wonder and a yearning to explore the boundless cosmos. Lumi's home nebula, called the Azure Veil, was a beautiful but secluded corner of the universe. It was a place where young stars like Lumi grew and learned, sheltered from the challenges of the outer cosmos. The other stars in the Azure Veil were content with their peaceful existence, but Lumi felt a deep, restless desire to see more. She often gazed beyond the nebula, her light shimmering with curiosity, and dreamed of the adventures that lay beyond the familiar swirls of gas and dust. One day, a comet named Comet Swift passed through the Azure Veil. Swift was a seasoned traveler of the cosmos, its tail trailing behind it like a ribbon of stardust. Lumi, drawn to the comet's stories of distant worlds and celestial wonders, summoned the courage to approach it. "Hello, Comet Swift," Lumi called out, her voice a gentle whisper. "I've never seen a comet before. Where are you going?" Comet Swift halted, its icy surface reflecting the soft glow of the nebula. "Greetings, little star," it replied. "I am on a journey to the heart of the Milky Way. It is a place of great beauty and mystery, where stars of all sizes converge to form a spectacular sight." Lumi's heart raced. "I would love to see the Milky Way. Can I come with you?" Swift chuckled, its tail flickering in the cosmic wind. "You are a brave one, Lumi. The journey is long and fraught with challenges, but if you are willing to face them, I will be glad to have you as my companion." Without hesitation, Lumi agreed. She bid farewell to her family and friends, her heart full of both excitement and a tinge of sadness. As she left the Azure Veil, the other stars wished her well, their light twinkling in encouragement. Lumi felt a surge of determination, knowing that she was embarking on a journey that would test her courage and resilience. The first leg of their journey took them through the dark zone, a vast region of space where light was scarce and the cold was unforgiving. Lumi's light dimmed as she struggled to keep up with Swift's swift pace. The darkness seemed to swallow her, and she felt a wave of fear. But she remembered her promise to be brave and pushed forward, her light gradually growing stronger. "Comet Swift, how do you navigate in such darkness?" Lumi asked, her voice trembling slightly. Swift's tail glowed with a gentle warmth. "By trusting in the light within you, Lumi. Every star, no matter how small, has the power to shine. You just need to believe in yourself." Lumi took a deep breath and let her light shine brighter. The darkness retreated, and she felt a newfound confidence. As they continued their journey, Lumi learned to trust her own light and navigate the challenges that lay ahead. Next, they encountered the Storm of Serpens, a region of space known for its violent solar winds and turbulent plasma. Lumi's light flickered as she felt the force of the storm, but Swift remained steadfast. "Stay close to me, Lumi," it instructed. "Together, we can weather any storm." Lumi clung to Swift's tail, her light merging with the comet's glow. The storm raged around them, but they emerged unscathed, their bond stronger than ever. Lumi realized that bravery was not just about facing fears alone, but also about finding strength in the company of others. As they traveled further, they came across a cluster of rogue planets, each one a massive, lonely world drifting through the void. The planets were wary of the small star and the comet, their surfaces scarred by countless millennia of isolation. Lumi, however, felt a kinship with them. She approached the nearest planet, her light casting a warm glow on its surface. "Hello, planet," Lumi said softly. "You seem so alone. Why are you drifting so far from the other planets?" The planet, its voice a rumble of tectonic shifts, replied, "I was once part of a solar system, but a cataclysmic event tore me away. Now, I wander the cosmos, a lost soul." Lumi's heart ached for the planet. "You are not alone, planet. We are all connected, even if we are far apart." Your journey is part of the universe's story, just as mine is. The planet's surface softened, and it emitted a faint, grateful glow. Thank you, little star. Your words have given me new hope. Lumi and Swift continued their journey, their spirits lifted by the encounter. They learned that even in the darkness, there was always a chance to bring light and comfort to others. Finally, they reached the edge of the Milky Way. The sight that greeted them was breathtaking. The galaxy stretched out in a spiral of light, its stars forming intricate patterns and constellations. Lumi's light grew brighter, and she felt a sense of awe and wonder. "Welcome to the heart of the Milky Way, Lumi," Swift said, its tail trailing behind it in a final, elegant sweep. "Here, you will find new friends and new adventures. But remember, the greatest adventure is the one within you." Lumi thanked Swift and bid it farewell, her heart full of gratitude. She took a deep breath and ventured into the heart of the Milky Way, her light shining like a beacon in the night sky. As Lumi explored the galaxy, she met stars of all sizes and ages. There was Sol, the mighty sun that gave life to a distant planet called Earth. There was Betelgeuse, a red giant that glowed with an intense, warm light. And there was Proxima Centauri, a small, faint star that was a symbol of perseverance in the face of adversity. Lumi's bravery and kindness soon became known throughout the galaxy. She helped a young star named Nova find its place in the cosmos, taught a distant asteroid to embrace its unique path, and even calmed the fears of a black hole that had grown too isolated. One day, Lumi found herself in a region of the galaxy where a cluster of stars was in danger of being extinguished by a dark cloud of interstellar dust. The stars were dimming, their light struggling to break through the thick, oppressive darkness. Lumi knew she had to act. Gathering all her courage, Lumi approached the dark cloud. "Hello, cloud," she said, her voice steady. "I know you are powerful, but you are also a part of the universe. The stars need to shine, and I believe you can help them do that." The cloud, its form shifting and uncertain, responded, "What can a small star like you do to change anything?" Lumi's light pulsed with determination. "I can shine. I can inspire. I can bring hope. And with your help, we can create a new beginning for these stars." The cloud hesitated, but Lumi's words resonated with it. Slowly, the cloud began to dissipate, allowing the stars to shine once more. The region was transformed, and the stars glow with newfound gratitude. From that day on, Lumi was known as the brave little star. Her story spread through the galaxy, inspiring other stars to embrace their own light and face their fears. Lumi continued her journey, always ready to help those in need and to explore the wonders of the universe. And though she was small, her impact was immense. For in the vast expanse of the cosmos, it is not the size of a star that matters, but the brightness of its light and the strength of its heart. The end. Sharing dreams with Sammy. In the heart of a bustling, sun-drenched city stood a quaint little bookstore called Dreamscapes. It was a hidden gem, tucked away on a narrow, cobblestone alley that seemed to defy the modern world's rapid pace. The store's facade was painted a soothing pastel blue, with a sign that read, "Discover your inner universe," in elegant, flowing letters. Inside, shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling, filled with books of every genre and age, each one a portal to a different world. Ella, the store's owner, was a woman in her mid-30s with a warm smile and a collection of colorful scarves that she changed daily. She had a knack for finding the most obscure and fascinating books, and her customers often left with titles they had never heard of but were eager to explore. Ella was known for her ability to listen and recommend books that perfectly matched their needs, but what truly set her apart was her secret: she could share dreams. Every night, Ella's dreams were vivid and immersive, and she had discovered a unique ability to link them to others. She could invite people into her dreams, allowing them to experience them as if they were their own. This gift had been both a blessing and a burden, for while it brought her closer to her customers and allowed her to understand their deepest desires, it also left her vulnerable, as each shared dream drained a bit of her energy. One day, a young boy named Sammy walked into Dreamscapes. He was about 10 years old, with a mop of curly brown hair and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. Sammy was clutching a tattered, leather-bound journal, its pages filled with doodles and half-formed stories. Ella noticed the journal first, and then the boy's eager gaze as he scanned the shelves. "Hi there, Sammy," Ella greeted him with a gentle smile. "What brings you to Dreamscapes today?" Sammy looked up, his eyes widening. "Hi, I'm looking for a book about dreams. I've been having the most amazing dreams lately, and I want to learn more about them." Ella's heart warmed. "Dreams, huh? That's a wonderful topic. I have just the right book for you." She led Sammy to a section near the back of the store, where books on psychology, mythology, and the mysteries of the human mind were housed. She pulled out a thin, well-worn volume titled The Language of Dreams by a local author. "This book is perfect for you," Ella said, handing it to Sammy. "It's all about the symbols and meanings in dreams. It might help you understand why you're having such vivid experiences." Sammy's face lit up. "Thank you. I've always been fascinated by dreams. I even write them down in this journal." He showed her the leather-bound book, and Ella's eyes caught on a few lines. "I dreamt of a vast, enchanted forest where trees glowed and animals spoke. They told me stories of ancient times, and I felt like I was part of a grand adventure." Ella was captivated. "Those are beautiful dreams, Sammy. Would you like to share one of them with me? I have a special way of connecting with dreams." Sammy's eyes widened with surprise. "Really? How?" Ella hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Let's just say, I can experience your dreams with you. It's a bit like reading a book together, but in a dream world. Would you like to try?" Sammy's curiosity overpowered any hesitation. "Yes, please. It sounds amazing." Ella smiled and led Sammy to a cozy corner of the store where a plush, velvet couch sat near a large, stained glass window. The light filtered through, casting a kaleidoscope of colors on the floor. She gestured for him to sit, and then she closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Moments later, Sammy felt a gentle tug, and the world around him began to shift. The enchanted forest. When Sammy opened his eyes, he found himself standing in the forest he had described in his journal. The trees towered above him, their leaves shimmering with a faint, ethereal glow. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the soft murmur of a nearby stream. Ella stood beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's even more beautiful than you wrote," she said, taking in the scene. Sammy grinned. "I know. This is the forest from my dream last night. I can show you around if you want." Ella nodded, and Sammy began to lead her deeper into the forest. The path was lined with colorful flowers, and as they walked, the trees seemed to part to make way for them. Sammy noticed a small, white rabbit sitting on a nearby rock, and he pointed it out to Ella. "Look, the rabbit is always there in my dreams. It's like a guide." The rabbit hopped down from the rock and scurried ahead, its fluffy tail bouncing. Sammy and Ella followed, and soon they found themselves in a clearing where a group of animals was gathered around a large, stone table. There was a wise old owl, a playful fox, a majestic stag, and a mischievous squirrel. Each animal had a distinct personality, and they all looked up as Sammy and Ella approached. "Welcome, young dreamer," the owl said, its voice deep and resonant. "We have been waiting for you." Sammy's eyes widened. "How did you know I was coming?" The fox chuckled, its tail flicking. "We know many things, but we especially know when a dreamer of great potential is near." Ella felt a shiver run down her spine. These animals weren't just characters in Sammy's dream. They were alive, each with a unique energy and presence. The stag stepped forward, its antlers gleaming in the moonlight. "We have a story to share with you, Sammy. A story that only the pure of heart can hear." Sammy's face lit up with excitement. "I'd love to hear it." The animals gathered closer, and the owl began to speak. "Long ago, in a time before time, this forest was the heart of the world. It was a place where dreams came to life, and the boundaries between reality and imagination were blurred. The forest was ruled by a powerful being known as the Dreamweaver, who could shape dreams and bring them to fruition. But the Dreamweaver grew tired of its solitary existence and decided to create companions. These companions were the animals you see before you, each with a unique gift and purpose. The owl was given the gift of wisdom, the fox the gift of cunning, the stag the gift of nobility, and the squirrel the gift of mischief. Together, they helped the dream weaver weave the most beautiful dreams the world had ever known. As the owl spoke, the scene around them changed. The forest grew brighter, and the air filled with a magical energy. Ella could almost feel the dreamweaver's presence, a gentle, comforting force that seemed to permeate everything. But as the world evolved, the forest began to fade. The boundaries between dreams and reality grew stronger, and the dreamweaver's powers diminished. The animals, too, began to lose their gifts. They wandered the forest, searching for a way to restore the dreamweaver's magic. And then, one night, they received a vision of a young boy, someone pure of heart and full of imagination, who could help them. "That boy is you, Sammy." Sammy's eyes were wide with disbelief. "Me? I can help the dreamweaver?" The squirrel scampered over and whispered in his ear, "Of course! You're the one who can bring dreams to life again. The dreamweaver needs your help to restore the forest's magic." Ella watched as Sammy's face transformed from doubt to determination. "What do I need to do?" The stag spoke again, its voice resonant and wise. "You must complete the dreamweaver's tasks. Each task will test your courage, your imagination, and your heart. If you succeed, the forest will be restored, and the dreamweaver's magic will return." Sammy nodded, his resolve firm. "I'll do it. I'll help the forest and the dreamweaver." The animals gathered around him, each offering a word of encouragement. The owl spoke of wisdom, the fox of strategy, the stag of bravery, and the squirrel of fun. Sammy felt a surge of confidence, and he knew he could complete the tasks. The first task, the Whispering Grove. The rabbit led Sammy and Ella to a grove where the trees seemed to lean in, their leaves rustling with a soft, whispering sound. In the center of the grove stood a small, ancient tree with a hollow trunk. The rabbit pointed to a small, silver key resting on a bed of moss at the base of the tree. "This is the first task," the rabbit said. "You must unlock the secret of the Whispering Grove. The key will open the door to the next part of your journey." Sammy approached the tree, his heart pounding. He picked up the key and inserted it into the hollow trunk. As he turned it, the tree's bark began to glow, and a door appeared, its surface etched with intricate, glowing symbols. Ella watched, fascinated. "What do you think the symbols mean?" she asked. Sammy studied the door, his mind racing. "I think they're a message, a clue to what we need to do next." The fox appeared beside them, its eyes gleaming. "You're right, Sammy. The symbols are the key to the next challenge. But you must solve the puzzle alone. This is your dream, and you must take the lead." Sammy took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I understand. I'll do my best." He placed his hand on the door, and the symbols began to shift and change. Sammy felt a connection, as if the symbols were speaking to him in a language he could almost understand. He closed his eyes and focused, his mind reaching out to the symbols. Moments later, he opened his eyes again, and the symbols had formed a clear message. "Find the heart of the forest." Sammy turned to Ella. "It's a riddle. We need to find the heart of the forest." Ella smiled. "I think you have a good start. Let's follow the path and see where it leads." They walked through the grove, following the whispers of the trees. The air grew cooler, and the light dimmed. Sammy felt a sense of unease, but he held the key tightly, drawing strength from it. After a while, they came to a small clearing where a single, ancient tree stood, its branches reaching toward the sky. At the base of the tree was a small, heart-shaped stone. "This must be it," Sammy said, his voice filled with awe. "The heart of the forest." He placed the key into a small slot in the stone, and it began to glow. The forest around them grew brighter, and the animals appeared, their eyes filled with gratitude. "You've done it, Sammy," the owl exclaimed. "The forest's magic is beginning to return." Sammy felt a surge of joy, but the squirrel hopped over and whispered, "There's more to come. The Dreamweaver has more tasks for you." The second task, the luminous lake. The next task led them to a serene, shimmering lake. The water was so clear, Sammy could see the pebbles at the bottom. The fox appeared beside them, its tail flicking with excitement. "The second task is to find the heart of the lake," the fox said, It's a crystal that lies at the bottom of the lake, but it's guarded by a powerful water spirit. You must convince the spirit to let you take the crystal. Sammy's eyes widened. A water spirit? That sounds intimidating. Ella smiled. But you're not alone, Sammy. I'll be here with you, and you have the support of the animals. You can do this. Sammy took a deep breath and stepped into the lake. The water was cool and refreshing, and as he swam to the center, he felt the presence of the water spirit. It appeared before him, a graceful, luminous figure with a serene expression. "Why do you seek the heart of the lake, young dreamer?" the spirit asked, its voice echoing through the water. Sammy floated in the lake, his heart pounding. "I needed to help the Dreamweaver. The forest is fading, and I want to restore its magic." The water spirit studied him for a moment, its eyes filled with an ancient wisdom. "Your heart is pure, and your determination is strong. But this is not a task to be taken lightly. The heart of the lake is a powerful artifact. Are you sure you are ready?" Sammy nodded, his resolve firm. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes to help." The spirit smiled, and the water around them began to swirl. The heart of the lake appeared, a large, glowing crystal that pulsed with a gentle, blue light. Sammy reached out and took it, and the spirit bowed in respect. "May the heart of the lake guide you on your journey," the spirit said. "You are a true dreamer." Sammy swam back to the shore, the crystal in his hand. Ella was waiting, her eyes filled with pride. "You did it, Sammy. You're amazing." The animals appeared, their faces beaming. The stag stepped forward. "The heart of the lake is a symbol of purity and clarity. It will help you navigate the challenges ahead." The third task, the echoing caverns. The rabbit led them to a dark, narrow cavern at the edge of the forest. The air was cool, and the walls were slick with moisture. The squirrel appeared beside them, its eyes gleaming with mischief. "The third task is to find the echoing stone," the squirrel said. "It's hidden deep within the caverns, and it's said to hold the key to understanding the language of dreams. But you must be careful. The caverns are filled with echoes, and they can lead you astray." Sammy took a deep breath and stepped into the cavern. As he walked, the echoes grew louder, a chorus of voices that seemed to come from every direction. He found himself repeating the words, his mind filled with confusion. But then, he remembered the heart of the lake and focused on its gentle, blue light. "Stay focused, Sammy," Ella's voice echoed through the cavern. "Listen to the echoes, but don't let them lead you astray." Sammy nodded, his mind clear. He continued through the cavern, the echoes growing louder but losing their power to confuse him. After a while, he came to a large, open chamber where a single, glowing stone stood on a pedestal. The stone was a deep, iridescent purple, and it pulsed with a rhythmic, musical energy. "This must be the echoing stone," Sammy said, his voice filled with awe. He approached the stone and reached out to touch it. As his fingers made contact, the stone began to vibrate, and a beautiful melody filled the chamber. The echoes faded, and the stone's energy seemed to flow into Sammy, filling him with a sense of clarity and understanding. "The echoing stone is a symbol of understanding and harmony," the owl said, appearing beside him. "It will help you communicate with the Dreamweaver and the forest." Ella smiled. "You've done it again, Sammy. You're truly special." The final task, the Dreamweaver's lair. The rabbit led them to a hidden glade deep within the forest. In the center of the glade stood a large, ancient tree, and at the base of the tree was a small, hidden door. The squirrel appeared, its eyes gleaming with excitement. "This is the final task," the squirrel said. "You must enter the Dreamweaver's lair and present the artifacts you've collected. The Dreamweaver will decide if you're worthy of restoring the forest's magic." Sammy's heart raced, but he took a deep breath and opened the door. The lair was a vast, open space filled with swirling mists and glowing orbs. At the center of the lair, the Dreamweaver appeared, a figure of light and shadow that seemed to shift and change with every movement. "Welcome, young dreamer," the Dreamweaver said, its voice a blend of many voices, each one resonant and powerful. "You have come far, and you have shown great courage and wisdom. But the final test is the most difficult. You must present the artifacts and prove your worth. Sammy stepped forward, the key, the heart of the lake, and the echoing stone in his hands. He placed them on a small, stone altar in front of the Dreamweaver. "I have completed the tasks," Sammy said, his voice steady. "I have the key to the Whispering Grove, the heart of the lake, and the echoing stone. I've done my best to understand the language of dreams and to help the forest. Please, let me help restore the magic." The Dreamweaver studied the artifacts and then looked at Sammy. "You have proven yourself worthy, young dreamer. But the true magic of the forest comes from the heart of those who believe. Will you believe in the magic and the power of your dreams?" Sammy closed his eyes and focused on the forest, the animals, and the sense of wonder that filled his heart. "I believe," he said, his voice filled with conviction. The Dreamweaver's form began to change, the light and shadow blending into a warm, glowing presence. The mists in the lair swirled, and the forest around them began to transform. The trees grew taller, the flowers bloomed, and the animals appeared, their eyes filled with joy. "The forest's magic is restored," the Dreamweaver said. "And you, Sammy, are the key to its future. Your dreams will continue to shape this world, and the forest will always be a place where dreams come to life." Sammy's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Thank you, Dreamweaver. I promise to use my dreams to help others and to keep the forest's magic alive." The Dreamweaver smiled, its form fading into the light. "You are already a great dreamer, Sammy. The forest will always be here for you." Awakening, Sammy opened his eyes, and he found himself back in the cozy corner of Dreamscapes. Ella was sitting beside him, a gentle smile on her face. "That was an incredible journey, Sammy," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "You've really helped the sleepy fox and the kind moon." In the heart of an ancient, lush forest, where the trees whispered secrets and the underbrush rustled with the movements of countless creatures, there lived a small, sleepy fox named Lena. Lena was known among the forest dwellers for her deep, dream-filled slumbers, which often lasted well into the afternoon. She would stretch her slender body under the warm sun, her chestnut fur glistening, and curl up in the softest patch of moss she could find. Her eyes fluttering closed as the world around her faded into a haze of peaceful dreams. Lena's home was a cozy den nestled at the base of an old oak tree, its roots forming a natural cradle for her to rest in. The den was warm and dry, with a small opening that let in just enough light to keep the darkness at bay. It was a sanctuary for her, a place where the worries of the forest could not touch her. But there was one thing that always managed to wake her from her slumbers: the gentle glow of the moon. The moon, known to the forest as Selene, was a mysterious and benevolent force. She watched over the forest from her celestial perch, her silvery light casting long shadows and illuminating the paths that creatures took through the night. Selene was more than just a celestial body. She was a guardian, a protector, and a friend to all who needed her. She had a special affection for Lena, often whispering soothing words to her through the leaves and the breeze, coaxing her to explore the wonders of the night. One particularly warm summer evening, Lena was woken by a soft, ethereal light that filtered through the branches of her oak tree. She blinked groggily, her eyes adjusting to the brightness, and she saw Selene's radiant face peering down at her. The moon's light was different tonight, warmer, more inviting. Lena felt a gentle pull, a curiosity that she couldn't ignore. She stretched, yawned, and slowly made her way out of her den. As she emerged, the forest seemed to come alive around her. The usual sounds of the night, crickets chirping, owls hooting, and the occasional rustle of leaves, were joined by an almost musical quality, as if the forest itself was singing a lullaby. Lena's ears perked up, and her nose twitched as she caught the scent of wildflowers and the cool, crisp air of the evening. "Lena, my dear," Selene's voice whispered, almost as if the moon itself was speaking. "Will you join me tonight? There is something I wish to show you." Lena, still half asleep, could hardly resist the moon's gentle invitation. She nodded, her tail swishing behind her, and began to follow the path of moonlight that seemed to guide her through the forest. The trees parted to let her through, and the animals, sensing the kind presence of Selene, went about their business without a murmur of complaint. As Lena walked, the forest transformed. The underbrush, which was usually tangled and difficult to navigate, now seemed to clear a path for her. The ground, which was often damp and muddy, felt soft and dry beneath her paws. She didn't feel the usual weariness that came with being awake at such an unusual hour. Instead, she felt a strange, exhilarating energy, as if the very air was infused with the moon's magic. After a while, Lena found herself at the edge of a clearing, a place she had never visited before. In the center of the clearing, a small, crystal-clear pond sparkled under the moon's light, its surface reflecting Celine's radiance like a mirror. The pond was surrounded by a ring of wildflowers, their colors vibrant and almost glowing in the night. In the distance, a gentle breeze carried the scent of the forest, mixing with the sweet aroma of the flowers. "Welcome, Lena," Celine's voice echoed softly, as if coming from the pond itself. "This is a special place, one that only reveals itself to those who are pure of heart and open to the wonders of the night. I brought you here because I have a gift for you." Lena approached the pond, her heart beating with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. As she reached the edge, the water began to ripple, and a silhouette formed in its depths. The silhouette transformed into a beautiful, ethereal fox, its fur as silver as the moon itself. The fox looked up at Lena, its eyes glowing with a gentle, knowing light. "This is your spirit guide," Celine explained. "She will help you understand the world around you and the magic within you. She will show you the path to true peace and happiness." Lena felt a connection to the spirit fox, a sense of kinship that she had never experienced before. The spirit fox stepped out of the pond, its paws touching the ground with a soft, almost imperceptible sound. It approached Lena, and they stood nose to nose, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. "Lena," the spirit fox said, its voice as melodious as the forest's lullaby, "you are more than just a sleepy fox. You have a deep reservoir of strength and wisdom within you, but you must learn to embrace the night to unlock it. The forest is alive with magic, and you are a part of it." Lena listened, her eyes wide with wonder. She had always felt a connection to the forest, but she had never realized the extent of its magic. The spirit fox continued, "You are a guardian of this place, just like the moon. But to truly protect it, you must understand its secrets and the balance that keeps it thriving." The spirit fox led Lena deeper into the clearing, and as they walked, the world around them began to shift. The wildflowers opened their petals wider, revealing tiny, luminous creatures that danced among the blooms. The trees leaned closer, their leaves rustling with a soft, melodic sound. The pond's surface shimmered, reflecting a world that was both familiar and fantastical. Lena's journey was filled with wonders. She saw a family of badgers playfully chasing each other, their fur glinting in the moonlight. She witnessed a pair of deer gracefully leap over a fallen log, their movements so fluid that it seemed as if they were floating. She even caught a glimpse of a wise old owl, perched on a branch, its eyes glowing with ancient wisdom. But the most extraordinary sight came when the spirit fox led her to a small, hidden grove. In the center of the grove, a magnificent tree stood tall, its branches reaching toward the sky and its leaves shimmering with a golden hue. The tree was unlike any she had ever seen, and as she approached, she felt a deep, resonant energy emanating from it. "This is the heart tree," the spirit fox explained. "It is the source of the forest's magic. Every creature in the forest is connected to it, and it is the heart tree that keeps the balance. By understanding its power, you can help protect the forest and all its inhabitants." Lena approached the tree, her paws sinking into the soft, mossy ground. As she touched the trunk, she felt a surge of energy flow through her, as if the tree was sharing its secrets with her. She saw visions of the forest's past and future, of the creatures that had lived and thrived here, of the challenges they had faced and the triumphs they had enjoyed. She saw the delicate balance of nature, the way that every living thing contributed to the harmony of the forest. The spirit fox watched as Lena's eyes filled with understanding. "You are ready, Lena. You are ready to embrace your role as a guardian of the forest. But remember, the path of a guardian is not always easy. There will be challenges, and there will be times when you must confront your fears. But you are strong, and you are kind, and you have the power to make a difference." Lena nodded, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. She turned to the spirit fox, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "I will do my best to protect the forest and all its magic." The spirit fox smiled, a radiant smile that seemed to light up the entire grove. "I know you will, Lena, and I will always be here to guide you, as will the moon." With that, the spirit fox faded back into the pond, leaving Lena alone with her thoughts. She stood before the heart tree, feeling the weight of her new responsibilities, but also the excitement of the journey ahead. She knew that the forest would always be her home, and that the moon and the spirit fox would always be her allies. As the night wore on, Lena explored the grove, learning its secrets and feeling the power of the heart tree pulse through her. She discovered hidden paths and secret nooks, places where the forest's magic was particularly strong. She met other creatures who, like her, were waking to the call of the moon, and they shared stories and laughter, forming bonds that would last a lifetime. When the first hints of dawn began to color the sky, Lena knew it was time to return to her den. She bid farewell to the heart tree and the grove, promising to return soon. As she made her way back through the forest, the creatures she had encountered during her journey watched her with a newfound respect. They saw a guardian in her, a protector of the forest's magic. When Lena finally reached her den, she curled up in the soft moss and closed her eyes, her mind filled with the wonders of the night. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, knowing that she had a purpose, a mission, and a family in the forest. And as she drifted into a peaceful slumber, Celine watched over her, her silvery light casting a protective glow over the forest and all its inhabitants. The moon knew that Lena would grow into a great guardian, one who would preserve the magic of the forest for generations to come. And in the heart of the ancient oak, Lena dreamed of the adventures that lay ahead, her spirit light and her heart full of hope. The sleepy fox and the kind moon had forged a bond that would last for eternity, a bond that would ensure the forest's magic would shine bright and true, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Benny learns to say goodnight. In the quaint little town of Willowbrook, nestled at the foot of the rolling green hills, lived a curious and energetic young boy named Benny. Benny was the kind of child who could find excitement in the simplest of things, from chasing butterflies in the meadow to building forts out of pillows and blankets in his room. His parents, Sarah and Tom, loved him dearly, but they often found themselves exhausted by his boundless energy, especially at bedtime. Benny's parents had tried every trick in the book to get him to go to sleep. They read him bedtime stories, sang lullabies, and even promised him an extra scoop of ice cream the next day if he went to bed on time. But nothing seemed to work. Benny would always find a reason to stay up just a little bit longer. He would beg for one more story, one more glass of water, or simply one more minute of playtime. His reluctance to say goodnight had become a nightly ritual that left the entire household feeling frazzled and worn out. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the town, Sarah and Tom gathered in Benny's room. The walls were adorned with posters of his favorite cartoon characters, and his bed was a treasure trove of stuffed animals and toy cars. Benny sat on the edge of his bed, his eyes wide with excitement, as if he had just discovered a new adventure awaiting him. "Benny," Sarah began, her voice gentle but firm, "it's getting late, and it's time for you to go to sleep. You have a big day tomorrow at school." Benny's face scrunched up, his lower lip trembling. "But Mom, I'm not tired. Can't I stay up just a little longer? Maybe watch one more episode of my show?" Sarah sighed, exchanging a weary glance with Tom. "Benny, we've talked about this. You need your sleep to be healthy and happy. We'll read you a story, and then it's time for bed." Benny reluctantly agreed, but as they settled down to read, his mind was already racing with ideas. He thought about all the things he could do if he stayed up past his bedtime. He could sneak into the kitchen and sneak a cookie, or maybe even build a secret fort under his bed. The possibilities seemed endless. The story they chose was one of Benny's favorites, a tale about a mischievous little rabbit who learned to be kind to his friends. As the pages turned, Benny's initial excitement began to wane, and he started to feel the weight of his eyelids. But just as Sarah was about to close the book, Benny perked up. "Mom, can I ask just one more question?" he said, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and hope. "Sure, Benny," Sarah replied, though she knew where this was going. "What if I stay up a little longer? Maybe I'll see something magical happen, like the fairies in the garden." Sarah smiled, a twinkle in her eye. "You know, Benny, there's a magical thing that happens every night, but it happens when you're asleep. It's called dreams. When you close your eyes and go to sleep, you can have the most incredible adventures in your dreams. You can explore faraway lands, meet new friends, and even talk to the fairies." Benny's eyes widened. "Really? That sounds amazing. Can I have a dream about the fairies?" Sarah nodded. "Of course you can. But to have those dreams, you need to go to sleep. So, what do you say? Are you ready to say goodnight and see what magical dreams await you?" Benny hesitated for a moment, his mind torn between the allure of the night and the promise of dreams. Finally, he nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Okay, Mom, I'll try." Tom, who had been quietly observing, leaned in and gave Benny a gentle hug. "That's my boy. Now, let's get you tucked in, and we'll say goodnight together." As Benny climbed into bed, Tom adjusted the pillows and pulled the covers up to his chin. Sarah turned off the bedside lamp, casting the room into a soft, calming darkness. The only light came from the night sky, where the stars twinkled like distant fireflies. "Are you ready, Benny?" Sarah asked, her voice warm and soothing. Benny nodded, his eyes still wide with wonder. "I'm ready." "Good night, Benny," Sarah said, leaning in to kiss his forehead. "Good night, Benny," Tom echoed, ruffling his hair. Benny hesitated, his lips forming the words he had never quite managed to say. "Good night, Mom and Dad. I love you." Sarah and Tom's hearts swelled with pride and love. They had always known Benny was a good boy, but hearing him say goodnight with such sincerity was a moment they would cherish forever. As they left the room, they heard Benny's soft voice in the darkness. "I hope I see the fairies in my dreams tonight." Sarah and Tom smiled at each other, their steps lighter as they made their way to their own room. For the first time in what felt like ages, they had a sense of peace and hope. Benny was learning to say goodnight, and with it, he was learning the importance of rest and the magic of dreams. Over the next few weeks, Benny's bedtime routine gradually improved. He still had moments of reluctance, but he began to see the value in a good night's sleep. He would ask for one more story or one more hug, but when it was time to say goodnight, he would do so without a fuss. His dreams became a source of excitement and wonder, and he would often wake up in the morning eager to share his adventures with his parents. One evening, as Sarah and Tom tucked Benny into bed, they noticed a small book on his nightstand. It's a handmade book with drawings and stories written in Benny's neat, childlike handwriting. Curious, Sarah picks it up and opens it to the first page. The title reads, "The Magical World of Benny's Dreams." Inside, Benny had drawn pictures of himself flying on the back of a dragon, exploring a castle filled with talking animals, and even having tea with the fairies in the garden. Each page was a testament to the incredible adventures he had experienced by learning to say goodnight and going to sleep on time. "Benny, this is wonderful," Sarah exclaimed, her voice filled with admiration. Benny beamed with pride. "I drew it all from my dreams. They're so much fun." Tom smiled, his heart swelling with love. "And you know what, Benny? You can have even more fun in your dreams if you go to sleep early. The best adventures are waiting for you." Benny nodded, his eyes sparkling. "I know, Dad. I'll try my best." That night, as Sarah and Tom said goodnight to Benny, they noticed something different. He didn't ask for one more story or one more hug. Instead, he closed his eyes and whispered, "Good night, fairies. I'll see you in my dreams." Sarah and Tom exchanged a knowing glance, their hearts filled with a profound sense of gratitude. Benny had not only learned to say goodnight, but he had also embraced the magic of sleep and the power of his imagination. They knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their family's life, one filled with more restful nights and more magical mornings. As they left Benny's room, they heard him softly humming a lullaby, a melody that had become a part of their nightly routine. The night was calm, and the stars were bright. But the most magical thing of all was the newfound peace in their home. And so, in the quiet of the night, as the town of Willowbrook drifted off to sleep, Benny's dreams carried him away to a world where anything was possible. He learned that saying goodnight was not the end of the day, but the beginning of a new adventure, one that only he could experience in the realm of his own dreams. The Owl Who Found Patents. In the heart of a vast and ancient forest, where the trees whispered tales of old and the stars shone like diamonds in the night sky, there lived an owl named Ophelia. Ophelia was a young barn owl with feathers as white as the moon and eyes as deep as the midnight sky. She was known throughout the forest for her curiosity and her inability to sit still for more than a few moments. Ophelia was always in a hurry, always eager to explore, and always restless. Her friends often chided her for her lack of patience, but Ophelia saw it as a strength. She believed that life was too short to waste on waiting. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves rustled and the air carried the scent of pine, Ophelia decided to embark on a grand adventure. She had heard from the wise old turtle, Tortellini, that there was a hidden lake deep in the forest, a place of such tranquility and beauty that it was said to change the hearts of those who visited. Ophelia, ever the thrill seeker, was determined to find this lake and see its wonders for herself. She spread her wings and took flight, soaring over the treetops with the grace and speed that only a barn owl possesses. The forest below was a tapestry of gold and orange, the colors of the leaves creating a mesmerizing pattern. But Ophelia barely noticed the beauty around her. She was too focused on her destination. She flew for what seemed like hours, her curiosity driving her forward, but the lake remained elusive. As the night deepened, the forest grew darker, and the stars twinkled more brightly. Ophelia's initial excitement began to wane, and a creeping sense of frustration set in. She had been flying for so long, and still, there was no sign of the lake. Her legs ached, her wings felt heavy, and the thought of giving up began to creep into her mind. But Ophelia was not one to give up easily. She decided to take a break, landing on a branch of a tall oak tree. The branch swayed gently under her weight, and she looked around, trying to gather her thoughts. A small, soft sound caught her attention, rustling of leaves from the neighboring tree. Ophelia turned her head to see a tiny, timid mouse peeking out from behind a leaf. The mouse, sensing Ophelia's presence, froze, its little heart beating a mile a minute. Ophelia, in her usual impulsive manner, lunged forward, intent on making a quick meal of the mouse. But as she reached out her talons, she hesitated. The mouse's eyes were wide with fear, and for a moment, Ophelia saw herself in those eyes. Restless, impulsive, and unable to wait. She retracted her talons and softly said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." The mouse, surprised by the owl's kindness, tentatively approached. "Thank you," it said in a tiny voice. "I'm Minnie. Why are you out so late?" "I'm Ophelia," she replied, her voice still a bit rough from the strain of flying. "I'm searching for the hidden lake that Tortellini told me about, but I've been flying for so long, and I can't seem to find it." Minnie's small face lit up. "The hidden lake? Oh, I know where it is, but it's a long journey, and you have to be patient. The forest is tricky, and the lake is well hidden. It's not a place you can find just by rushing through." Ophelia's feathers ruffled in frustration. "I don't understand. Why should I be patient? I've always been told that if you want something, you have to go after it with all your might." Minnie nodded thoughtfully. "That's true, but sometimes, the journey is just as important as the destination. The forest has a way of testing your resolve. If you're not willing to slow down and appreciate the journey, you might miss the most important parts." Ophelia considered this. She had never thought about the journey itself. She was always so focused on the end goal. But as she sat there, resting her wings and listening to the forest's gentle sounds, she began to see the beauty in what Minnie was saying. "Will you show me the way?" Ophelia asked, her voice more gentle than before. Minnie nodded eagerly. "Of course, but we must take our time. The forest is full of wonders, and we can't rush through them." And so, Ophelia and Minnie set off together. But this time, Ophelia took her time. They walked through the forest, rather than flew, allowing Ophelia to see the world from a different perspective. She noticed the intricate patterns of the leaves, the way the moonlight filtered through the branches, and the soft rustling of the forest floor. Minnie pointed out the hidden nests, the underground burrows, and the streams that flowed with crystal-clear water. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, Ophelia felt a change within herself. The restlessness that had always driven her began to subside, replaced by a sense of peace and wonder. She realized that she had been so focused on finding the lake that she had missed the beauty of the forest itself. The journey was teaching her something far more valuable than any hidden lake ever could. After what felt like an eternity, they finally came to a clearing. In the center, the most breathtaking sight greeted them. A small, tranquil lake, its surface like a mirror reflecting the stars above. The water was so clear that Ophelia could see the pebbles at the bottom, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of night-blooming flowers. Minnie smiled. "Welcome to the hidden lake. This is where the forest shows its true beauty, but only to those who are patient enough to find it." Ophelia stepped forward, her heart full of gratitude. She had never seen anything so beautiful in her life. The lake was not just a destination. It was a reward for the journey she had taken. She knelt by the water's edge and dipped her beak, tasting the cool, refreshing water. It was like nothing she had ever tasted before, and she felt a sense of renewal. "Thank you, Minnie," Ophelia said, her voice filled with emotion. "I wouldn't have found this if it weren't for you. You've taught me the value of patience." Minnie beamed. "I'm glad I could help. Remember, the world has so much to offer, but we must slow down to see it all." Ophelia flew back to her home, her heart lighter and her mind more at ease. She told all her friends about her journey and the lessons she had learned. They were amazed by the change in her, and many of them decided to take the journey to the hidden lake themselves, inspired by Ophelia's story. From that day on, Ophelia was no longer the owl who couldn't sit still. She still had her curiosity and her love for adventure, but now she understood that sometimes the best adventures are the ones where you take the time to appreciate the journey. And so, the owl who once found patience in the most unlikely of places became a symbol of tranquility and wisdom in the forest, a reminder to all that the greatest rewards often come to those who are willing to slow down and wait. The dream that grew. In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, there lived a young girl named Alara. Alara was not like the other children in her village. While they spent their afternoons playing games and chasing butterflies, she could often be found wandering the edges of the forest, her eyes scanning the horizon, her mind lost in a world of wonder and possibility. Her parents, though loving, often worried about her. They saw a spark in her that they couldn't quite understand, a fire that burned brighter with each passing day. Alara's dream was simple at first. She wanted to explore the world beyond the confines of her village. She had heard tales of distant lands from travelers who occasionally passed through, and each story only fueled her curiosity. The mountains that towered in the distance, the cities that shimmered in the sun, the oceans that stretched endlessly. All of these were calling to her, whispering promises of adventure and discovery. One particularly stormy night, as the rain lashed against the windows and the wind howled through the trees, Alara lay in her bed, unable to sleep. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, and in her dreams, she saw herself standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted wilderness. The sky was a deep, velvety blue, and the stars shone like diamonds in the distance. She felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that this was where she was meant to be. When she awoke the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a fresh, crisp air. Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that she couldn't stay in the village forever, that her heart yearned for something more. But she also knew that her parents would never allow her to leave without a plan. So, she began to prepare. Over the next few months, Alara spent her days learning everything she could about the world. She borrowed books from the village elder, who had traveled far and wide in his youth. She listened intently to the stories of the travelers, asking questions and taking notes. She even started to sketch the landscape she imagined, filling her small notebook with visions of far-off places. Her parents noticed the change in her. They saw the determination in her eyes, the way she spoke with such passion about her dreams. They were torn between their desire to protect her and their understanding that she needed to follow her heart. One evening, as they sat around the fireplace, her father spoke up. "Alara, we've noticed that you've been preparing for something. What is it that you wish to do?" Alara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I want to leave the village, Father. I want to see the world, to explore the places I've only read about and dreamed of." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "We've always known that you were meant for great things, Alara. But the world is harsh, and it's full of dangers. We can't just let you go without a plan." Alara smiled, her resolve strengthening. "I've been learning, Mother. I know about the lands beyond, the people, the customs. I've been preparing for this for a long time." Her parents exchanged a glance, and then her father spoke again. "We will help you, Alara, but you must promise us that you will be cautious, that you will find safe places to stay and make wise choices." Alara's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "I promise, Father. I will be careful, but I will also be brave." With their blessing, Alara began to gather supplies. She packed a small bag with food, water, a blanket, and her notebook. She bade farewell to her friends and the familiar sights of her village, and on the morning of her departure, she set out alone, her heart both heavy and light. The journey was long and arduous. Alara faced many challenges, from crossing treacherous rivers to navigating dense forests. But with each step, her dream grew. She no longer simply wanted to explore the world. She wanted to understand it, to make a difference in it. She met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories and dreams. Some were kind and offered her shelter, while others were wary and cautious. But Alara always approached them with a smile and an open heart, and she earned their trust. One day, as she was traveling through a bustling city, she came across a group of people gathered in a square. They were discussing a problem that had plagued their community for years, a mysterious illness that had been spreading among the children. Alara, who had learned much about healing and medicines from her village elder, approached the group and offered her help. At first, they were skeptical. A young girl from a distant village seemed unlikely to have the knowledge needed to solve such a complex issue. But Alara's determination and sincerity won them over, and they allowed her to assist. Over the next few weeks, Alara worked tirelessly, consulting ancient texts, experimenting with different herbs, and talking to local healers. Finally, she discovered a combination of plants that seemed to alleviate the symptoms of the illness. The community was overjoyed, and they held a grand celebration in her honor. Alara was humbled by their gratitude, but she knew that this was just the beginning. Word of her success spread quickly, and soon, Alara was traveling from village to village, helping to heal and to teach. She became known as a healer, a wise and compassionate young woman who could bring hope to the most desperate situations. But her dream continued to grow. She realized that she wanted to do more than just heal. She wanted to build a better world, one where people could live in harmony and where knowledge could be shared freely. Alara's travels eventually led her to a great city, where she met a group of scholars and healers who shared her vision. They welcomed her into their community, and together, they worked on projects that would improve the lives of people across the land. Alara learned more about the world than she ever thought possible, and her skills as a healer and a teacher grew exponentially. Years passed, and Alara's dream evolved once more. She no longer just wanted to heal and teach. She wanted to inspire. She began to write, sharing her experiences and the wisdom she had gained. Her stories and teachings spread far and wide, reaching people in even the most remote corners of the world. People looked up to her, and her name became synonymous with hope and resilience. Alara never forgot her roots, and she often returned to her village to visit her family and share her adventures. Her parents, though still worried, were proud of the woman she had become. They saw that her dream had not only grown but had also blossomed into something beautiful, something that had touched countless lives. One summer, as Alara stood on the hill overlooking her village, she felt a sense of profound satisfaction. Her journey had been long, and it had not always been easy, but she had never wavered in her resolve. Her dream had grown from a simple desire to explore the world into a mission to make it a better place. And she knew that her work was far from over. Alara continued to travel, to heal, to teach, and to inspire. She became a symbol of what one person could achieve if they followed their dreams and refused to be deterred by obstacles. Her story was told and retold, a reminder that the greatest adventures often begin with a single step, and that the dreams we hold in our hearts have the power to grow and change the world. And so, the dream that had started in the heart of a young girl from a small village grew into a legacy that would be remembered for generations to come. The tale of the sleepy firefly. In a lush, verdant forest that stretched as far as the eye could see, there lived a multitude of creatures, each unique in their own way. The forest was a tapestry of life, woven with the sounds of chirping crickets, the rustle of leaves, and the gentle flow of a nearby stream. Among the myriad inhabitants of this enchanted place, there was a small, glowing firefly named Luna. Luna was known throughout the forest for her luminous beauty and her gentle, calming presence. However, there was one peculiar thing about Luna. She was incredibly sleepy. Luna's sleepiness was not a usual trait for a firefly. Most of her kind were bustling with energy, darting from flower to flower and twinkling like stars in the night sky. But Luna found herself often lagging behind, her light dimming and her wings heavy with the weight of drowsiness. She tried her best to stay awake, but the allure of sleep was too strong, and she often found herself nodding off at the most inopportune times. One warm summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest transformed into a symphony of nocturnal activity, Luna prepared herself for another night of struggle. She had a mission to complete: to light up a particularly dark corner of the forest where the trees were dense and the undergrowth thick. This area was home to several young animals who found it difficult to venture out at night due to the overwhelming darkness. Luna's task was to guide them safely to the open glades where they could play and explore. As she took flight, her light flickered weakly. She could feel the pull of sleep tugging at her eyelids, but she shook her head, determined to fulfill her duty. Luna flew deeper into the forest, her wings beating slowly and rhythmically. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the sound of distant insects. She heard the soft whisper of a rabbit. "Luna, are you there? We need you to light our path." Luna squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, mustering her strength. "I'm here," she called out, her voice a bit hoarse from the effort. "I'll guide you, but I need a little help." The rabbit, a curious and empathetic creature named Thumper, hopped closer. "Help? What kind of help do you need, Luna?" Luna landed on a nearby fern, her glow barely illuminating the area around her. "I'm very sleepy, Thumper. I don't know if I can make it through the night, but I promise to help you and the other young ones. Can you help me stay awake?" Thumper tilted his head, his large, floppy ears swiveling to catch every word. "Of course, Luna. We'll do whatever it takes to help you. We can't let our little lantern fall asleep on us." Word of Luna's plight spread quickly through the forest. The animals, who had come to rely on her gentle light, were determined to help. Squirrel, a nimble and resourceful creature, scurried up a nearby tree and gathered a handful of acorns. "These acorns are rich in nutrients," he explained. "They should give you a bit of energy to keep going." Luna gratefully accepted the acorns and nibbled on them. Her light grew a little brighter, and she felt a surge of energy. "Thank you, Squirrel. You're a lifesaver." Meanwhile, Owl, the wise and nocturnal guardian of the forest, swooped down from his perch. "Luna, I can see the struggle in your eyes," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I have a suggestion. Why don't we all take turns keeping you company? We can tell stories, sing songs, and keep you engaged so you won't feel so sleepy." The idea was met with enthusiastic agreement from the other animals. Fox, a sly and clever creature, offered to lead the way through the dense undergrowth. "I know the quickest path," he said. "We'll get there in no time." Luna, feeling a sense of camaraderie and support, took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's go, everyone. We can do this together." The group set off, with Fox leading the way, Thumper hopping alongside, Squirrel perched on a branch overhead, and Owl gently guiding from above. Luna flew in the middle, her light steady and strong. The forest was alive with the sounds of their journey, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of crickets, and the occasional hoot of owl. As they progressed, Luna found herself growing drowsier again. Squirrel, noticing her struggle, began to tell a story. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there was a magical firefly named Lumen. Lumen's light was so bright it could illuminate an entire kingdom. But Lumen was also very sleepy, and one day, he fell asleep during a crucial mission. The kingdom was plunged into darkness, and Lumen was filled with guilt. However, the animals of the forest came together and helped Lumen stay awake, teaching him the power of friendship and community. From that day on, Lumen never felt alone and always had the strength to shine. Luna's heart was warmed by the story. Thank you, Squirrel. It helps to know I'm not alone in my struggle. Thumper, ever the enthusiastic one, started to sing a cheerful tune. We're the helpers of the forest. Together we can shine. No matter how sleepy, no matter how tired, we'll keep the darkness from aligning. Owl, with his deep, soothing voice, added, Luna, your light is a beacon of hope for the young ones. Even if it flickers, it still guides them. You are strong, and we believe in you. Luna, feeling a renewed sense of purpose, began to glow a little brighter. She flew with more determination, her wings beating stronger. The journey continued, and the dark corner of the forest loomed ahead. As they approached, Luna's light began to dim again. She felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, and her wings threatened to stop beating. But the animals, sensing her struggle, rallied around her. Thumper hopped closer, his fur brushing against her legs. Squirrel chirped encouragement from above, and Owl hooted softly, his wings creating a gentle breeze that seemed to invigorate Luna. Come on, Luna, just a little further. Thumper called out, Your light is beautiful. Don't let it go out. Squirrel added. Owl, sensing that Luna needed a final burst of energy, flew down and whispered, Luna, think of the young ones who are counting on you. Think of the darkness you are banishing with your light. You are their hero. Luna's heart swelled with a sense of responsibility. She took a deep breath, and with a burst of determination, she surged forward. Her light grew brighter than ever before, illuminating the dark corner of the forest with a warm, golden glow. The young animals, who had been huddled together in fear, looked up in awe. Luna, it's so bright, a young deer exclaimed. We can see everything now. A fox kit giggled and ran forward. Thank you, Luna. We can play and explore now. Luna, feeling a sense of fulfillment, landed on a nearby leaf. You're welcome, everyone. I couldn't have done it without my friends. The group gathered around her, their eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. Thumper, Squirrel, Owl, and Fox all took turns expressing their thanks. Luna, you've shown us the power of community and the strength that comes from helping one another, Owl said, his voice filled with pride. Luna, despite her exhaustion, felt a deep sense of joy. She had not only fulfilled her duty, but had also strengthened the bonds of friendship within the forest. As the night wore on, the young animals played and explored under Luna's gentle light, their laughter and joy filling the air. When the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, the young animals bade Luna a fond farewell. Thank you, Luna. We'll always remember how you helped us, the young deer said, her voice tinged with gratitude. Luna, feeling a sense of peace, flew back to her resting place. She landed on a soft bed of moss and closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. For the first time in a long while, her sleep was deep and restful, free from the guilt of not fulfilling her duty. When she awoke, the forest was alive with the sounds of a new day. She stretched her wings and took flight, feeling more energized than she had in a long time. As she flew over the forest, she noticed that the darkness had lifted, and the young animals were out and about, playing and exploring with newfound freedom. Luna realized that sometimes the greatest light comes not from individual effort, but from the collective strength of a community. She had learned the value of friendship, the power of support, and the importance of reaching out when in need. And as she continued to fly, her light glowed with a newfound brightness, a testament to the bonds she had formed and the lessons she had learned. From that day on, Luna was no longer just a sleepy firefly. She was a symbol of hope and unity, a reminder that even the smallest among them could make a big difference when they worked together. And the forest, with its myriad creatures, continued to thrive, illuminated by the light of camaraderie and the gentle glow of a firefly named Luna. A good night for everyone. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where the neon lights never faded and the streets buzzed with the echoes of countless lives, there stood a small, unassuming apartment building. It was a place where the city's hustle and bustle seemed to dissipate, replaced by a gentle hum of domestic tranquility. Each apartment had its own rhythm, its own story, but on one particular night, something magical happened that brought them all together. Chapter 1. The arrival of the new neighbor. It was a crisp autumn evening, the kind that made the air feel electric. The sun had set hours ago, and the city was just beginning to wind down. In apartment 3B, a young woman named Lily was unpacking boxes, her small but cozy living room filled with the warmth of freshly baked cookies and the scent of pine from the wreath she had hung on the door. She had just moved into the building after a long and tiring journey from the countryside, where she had grown up surrounded by rolling hills and the gentle chirping of crickets. Lily's heart ached a little as she thought of the quiet, peaceful nights she had left behind. The city was overwhelming, and she wondered if she would ever feel at home here. As she placed the last box in the corner, she heard a gentle knock on her door. Curious, she opened it to find an elderly man standing in the hallway, his gray hair neatly combed, and a kind smile on his face. "Hello, I'm Mr. Thompson," he said, extending a hand. "I live in 2B, right below you." "It's nice to meet you, Lily." Lily smiled back, feeling a sudden warmth. "It's nice to meet you too, Mr. Thompson. I just moved in today." "Ah, I see. Welcome to the building. We're a close-knit community here, and we always try to look out for each other," Mr. Thompson said. "Would you like to join us for a welcome dinner? It's a bit of a tradition. We're having it in the courtyard in about an hour." Lily's heart skipped a beat. A welcome dinner sounded delightful, but the thought of meeting so many new people at once was daunting. "That sounds wonderful, but I don't want to impose," she said, hesitantly. "No imposition at all," Mr. Thompson reassured her. "It'll be a good night for everyone. Trust me." With a nod, Lily agreed to attend the dinner, her nerves tingling with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. As Mr. Thompson walked away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging, a glimmer of hope that this city might not be so lonely after all. Chapter 2. The Courtyard Gathering. An hour later, Lily found herself standing in the courtyard of the apartment building. The space had been transformed. Strings of fairy lights hung from the trees, casting a soft, golden glow over the area. A long table was set up in the center, adorned with an array of dishes that smelled heavenly. The residents of the building had gathered, each bringing something to share. Lily spotted Mr. Thompson at the head of the table, surrounded by a group of older adults. He motioned for her to join them, and she made her way over, feeling a bit out of place. As she approached, a young boy with a mop of curly hair ran up to her, holding a piece of paper. "Hi, I'm Jamie. I drew this for you," he said, handing her the paper. It was a colorful drawing of a sun and a smiling house. Lily's eyes welled up with tears, and she hugged Jamie tightly. "Thank you, Jamie. It's beautiful," she said, her voice choked with emotion. Jamie beamed, and his mother, Sarah, who was standing nearby, smiled at Lily. "He's been so excited about the new neighbor." "We all are." Lily sat down at the table, and the residents began to introduce themselves. There was Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, a retired couple who had lived in the building for over 30 years. There was Dr. Patel, a busy doctor who always seemed to have a kind word for everyone. And there was Maria, a vibrant artist who had a studio on the top floor. The dinner was a riot of laughter and conversation. They talked about the building's history, the eccentric characters who had once lived there, and the adventures they had shared. As the night wore on, Lily found herself relaxing, feeling more and more at ease. Chapter 3. The Secret of the Building. As the dinner drew to a close, Mr. Thompson stood up, his voice booming over the chatter. "Before we all head to bed, I have a little story to share. This building has a secret, a tradition that has been passed down from generation to generation." The residents leaned in, their eyes twinkling with curiosity. Lily was captivated, sensing that this story was more than just a casual tale. Every year, on the last night of autumn, we gather in the courtyard to share a special goodnight. It's a way to bond, to express gratitude, and to wish each other the best for the coming season. It's a tradition that reminds us that no matter how different our lives may be, we are all connected. Mr. Thompson's words hung in the air, and a hush fell over the group. He continued, "We each take a turn to say something meaningful, something that will warm the hearts of the others. It's a simple act, but it has the power to change lives." Lily felt a lump form in her throat. She had never heard of such a tradition, and the thought of it touched her deeply. Mr. Thompson gestured for everyone to gather around the fire pit in the center of the courtyard. The flames danced, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the residents. Chapter 4. The Goodnight Circle. One by one, the residents began to speak. Mr. Johnson shared a story about how he and his wife had met in this very building, and how it had been their sanctuary through the ups and downs of life. Dr. Patel spoke about the resilience of the human spirit, and how the community here had always supported her in her work. Maria talked about the beauty of art, and how the building had inspired some of her best pieces. As the circle progressed, Lily's heart grew lighter. She listened to each story with rapt attention, feeling a sense of unity and belonging. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath and began to speak. "I grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other. Moving to the city was a big change, and I was afraid I would never find that sense of community again. But tonight, I have. Thank you all for making me feel welcome. I promise to be a good neighbor and to share in the warmth and kindness that you all radiate." Her words were met with a round of applause, and Lily felt a deep connection to this new community. Mr. Thompson smiled and nodded, as if he had known all along that she would fit in perfectly. Chapter 5. The Magic of Good Night. As the night grew darker, the fire burned brighter. The residents continued to share their stories, their hopes, and their dreams. The air was filled with the sound of laughter and the crackling of the fire. Lily felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of belonging that had eluded her in the city. Finally, it was time for the good night. Mr. Thompson raised a glass of apple cider, and the others followed suit. "To a good night for everyone," he said, and they all repeated the words, their voices mingling in a beautiful harmony. They then turned to one another, saying good night in a way that felt more like a promise. Lily said good night to Jamie, who hugged her again, and to Sarah, who gave her a warm smile. She said good night to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, to Dr. Patel, and to Maria, each exchange leaving her feeling more and more connected. As they all headed back to their apartments, the streets outside the building seemed to quiet, as if even the city was acknowledging the special moment that had taken place. Lily walked to her door, feeling lighter and more at peace than she had in months. She knew that no matter what the future held, she had found a home. Chapter 6. The Morning After. The next morning, Lily woke up to the gentle rays of sunlight filtering through her window. She felt a sense of clarity and purpose that she hadn't felt in a long time. As she stepped out onto her balcony, she saw Mr. Thompson watering his plants in the courtyard below. He looked up and smiled, waving at her. "Good morning, Lily. How did you sleep?" Lily smiled back, feeling the warmth of the previous night's good night. "I slept wonderfully, thank you." Mr. Thompson nodded. "I knew you would. This building has a special energy, and last night, that energy was at its strongest. We all need a good night, a moment to connect and to feel seen. It's what makes us human." Lily nodded, feeling grateful for the unexpected gift of this community. She knew that the good night tradition wasn't just a quaint ritual. It was a lifeline, a way to remind each other that no matter how isolated the city might make them feel, they were never truly alone. Epilogue. The Power of Connection. In the months that followed, Lily found herself deeply integrated into the community. She joined the weekly book club, painted murals in the courtyard with Maria, and helped Jamie with his homework. The building became a place where she could truly be herself, where her fears and anxieties were met with empathy and support. Each year, as autumn gave way to winter, the good night tradition continued, bringing the residents closer and closer. It was a reminder that in a world where everything moves so fast, a simple act of kindness and connection could make all the difference. And so, The story of the good night for everyone lived on, a beacon of hope and unity in the heart of the city. The sheep who counted stars. In the heart of a vast, rolling countryside, where the hills stretched endlessly into the horizon and the sky seemed to touch the earth, there lived a small flock of sheep. The flock was led by a wise and gentle old ram named Orion, who had watched over the sheep for many years. Among the flock was a particularly inquisitive and dreamy young sheep named Stella. Stella was unlike any other sheep in the flock. While the others spent their days grazing in the lush meadows and napping beneath the warm sun, Stella would often wander to the highest hill in the region, where she could gaze up at the sky. The sheep had no need to worry about predators, for Orion had taught them well, and the hill provided a safe vantage point from which to observe the world beyond their meadows. Stella was fascinated by the stars. Every night, as the sun set and the sky darkened, she found herself drawn to the hill. The stars, she thought, were like tiny, glowing diamonds scattered across the black velvet of the night. She had a natural curiosity about the universe, a hunger to understand the mysteries that lay beyond the confines of her simple existence. One particularly clear and crisp evening, Stella sat on the hilltop, her wool fluffed up by the gentle breeze. As she looked up, she noticed that the stars seemed to form patterns, and she began to count them, one by one. At first, it was just a game, a way to pass the time and keep her mind active. But as she continued to count, she became more and more intrigued. She noticed that certain stars always appeared in the same place, while others seemed to move in a predictable pattern. She began to wonder if there was a deeper meaning to the stars, something that she could understand if she just kept counting. Orion, noticing Stella's frequent absences, decided to investigate. He found her one night on the hill, her eyes fixed on the sky, a look of deep concentration on her face. "What are you doing, Stella?" he asked gently. "I'm counting the stars," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "I think they might have a story to tell, if we only listen." Orion chuckled, a warm, rumbling sound that echoed through the night. "Counting stars, are you? I must admit, I've never heard of a sheep doing that. But you've always been a curious one. What have you learned so far?" Stella's eyes sparkled. "I think the stars are like a map, Orion. They show us where we are and where we're going. Some of them move and others stay still, but they all seem to follow a pattern. I want to understand it better." Orion nodded, his respect for the young sheep growing. "Well, if anyone can figure it out, it's you. But don't forget your duties to the flock. We all have a role to play." Stella promised to keep her responsibilities in mind, but her fascination with the stars only deepened. She started keeping a record of her observations, using bits of bark and charcoal to draw the patterns she saw. Over time, she noticed that the stars moved in cycles, and she began to track these cycles, learning to predict when certain stars would appear and where they would be. The other sheep in the flock found Stella's behavior strange but endearing. They would often join her on the hill, though most of them would fall asleep while she continued her star counting. One of the older ewes, Cassiopeia, would sit with her and share stories of the old days, tales of how the stars were once believed to be the spirits of their ancestors watching over them. As the seasons changed, Stella's star counting became a daily ritual. She would spend hours on the hill, and her records grew more and more detailed. One night, as the full moon bathed the hill in a silvery glow, Stella made a discovery that would change everything. She noticed that the position of the North Star, which she had learned from Orion, remained constant, while the other stars revolved around it. This realization filled her with a sense of awe and purpose. The next day, Stella approached Orion with her findings. "I think I've discovered something important, Orion," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The North Star never moves, but the other stars revolve around it. I believe it can help us navigate, even at night." Orion, who had always been open to new ideas, listened intently. "That's a remarkable observation, Stella. If true, it could be very useful. But how do we test it?" Stella thought for a moment. "We could try to use it to find our way back to the meadows from a different hill. If we can do that, it would prove that the North Star is a reliable guide." Intrigued, Orion agreed to help Stella with her experiment. They chose a distant hill, one that the flock rarely visited, and set out under the cover of night. The other sheep followed, curious and a bit nervous about this new adventure. As they reached the top of the distant hill, Stella pointed to the North Star. "Follow that star, and it will lead us back home," she said confidently. The sheep were skeptical but willing to try. They followed Stella's instructions, and to their amazement, the North Star guided them back to their meadows without a single misstep. The journey was faster and more direct than any of them had ever experienced. The flock was amazed. Orion praised Stella for her insight and encouraged her to continue her studies. "You have a gift, Stella," he said, "one that can benefit all of us. Keep exploring, and perhaps you can uncover even more secrets of the night sky." Stella's confidence grew, and she became more determined than ever. She spent every clear night on the hill, refining her understanding of the stars. She learned to recognize constellations, the patterns formed by groups of stars, and began to understand the movements of planets and the phases of the moon. Word of Stella's abilities spread through the countryside, and other animals began to seek her out. A wise old owl named Athena would visit her, bringing knowledge of the ancient wisdom of the skies. Athena taught Stella about the constellations of the zodiac and the stories behind them. She also shared the secrets of the moon, explaining how it influenced the tides and the cycles of life on Earth. With Athena's guidance, Stella's star counting evolved into a profound understanding of the cosmos. She began to see the stars not just as points of light, but as part of a vast, interconnected system that governed the natural world. She learned to use the stars to predict the weather, the best times for planting and harvesting, and even to navigate during the day using the position of the sun. As the years passed, Stella's insights became invaluable to the flock. She would often lead them to new pastures, using her knowledge of the stars to find the best paths. The sheep thrived under her guidance, and Orion was proud of the young sheep who had once been content to simply count the stars. But Stella's journey was far from over. One night, as she sat on the hill, a shooting star streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of light in its wake. Stella watched, mesmerized, as the star seemed to dance and twirl before it disappeared. She had never seen anything like it, and it only fueled her curiosity. Determined to understand this new phenomenon, Stella sought out Athena once again. The owl, sensing the young sheep's determination, decided to take her to a higher level. "Stella, you have learned much, but there is still more to discover," Athena said. "The shooting stars you see are not just random occurrences. They are part of a larger cosmic dance, a cycle that repeats over time." Athena then took Stella on a journey, not of the physical world, but of the mind. She showed her the celestial map, a vast, intricate network of stars, planets, and galaxies that existed beyond the sheep's world. Stella learned about the Milky Way, the galaxy that was their home, and the countless other galaxies that dotted the universe. She understood the concept of time and space, and how the stars were distant suns, each with their own planets and possibly their own life. This new knowledge was overwhelming, but Stella was undaunted. She realized that her star counting was not just a hobby, but a way to connect with the universe. She began to share her discoveries with the other sheep, teaching them about the stars and the cosmos. The flock was amazed by her wisdom and began to look to her for guidance. One evening, as Stella sat on the hill, surrounded by the sheep who had gathered to listen to her stories, she gazed at the sky and felt a deep sense of peace. She had found her purpose, not just as a shepherd, but as a bridge between the earth and the heavens. She knew that her journey was far from over, that there were still many mysteries to unravel. But for now, she was content. She had discovered that the stars were not just distant, unchanging points of light, but a living, breathing part of the universe. They told a story, one that Stella was learning to read and share with her flock. As the night deepened and the stars continued their eternal dance, Stella closed her eyes and felt the warmth of her fellow sheep around her. She whispered to herself, "The stars are counting on me, and I will always count on them." And so, the sheep who counted stars became a legend, a symbol of curiosity, wisdom, and the infinite connection between the earth and the heavens. The Curious Cat's Quiet Night. In the bustling city of Maplewood, tucked away in a quaint neighborhood lined with cobblestone streets and Victorian houses, there lived a curious cat named Whiskers. Whiskers was a sleek, black and white feline with a penchant for adventure and a heart full of mischief. His owner, an elderly woman named Mrs. Eleanor, doted on him, but even she couldn't always keep up with his endless curiosity. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the neighborhood, Whiskers sat by the window, his eyes fixed on the world outside. Mrs. Eleanor had just finished feeding him and was settling into her armchair with a steaming cup of tea and a thick, leather-bound book. Whiskers, however, was far from content to spend the evening lounging. The world outside was calling to him, and he couldn't resist the siren song of the night. With a stealthy leap, he landed on the windowsill and peered out into the twilight. The street was quiet, save for the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hum of traffic. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fallen apples and damp earth, making Whiskers' tail twitch with excitement. He glanced back at Mrs. Eleanor, who was already engrossed in her book, and saw his opportunity. With a quick, silent push, he nudged the window open and slipped outside, disappearing into the night. Whiskers landed softly on the grass, his paws barely making a sound. He took a deep breath, savoring the cool air and the faint aroma of rain that was sure to come. The neighborhood was a labyrinth of hidden alleys, overgrown gardens, and curious little nooks that Whiskers had yet to explore. He set off down the street, his ears perked and his senses sharpened. As he walked, Whiskers noticed the subtle changes in the air. The temperature was dropping, and the sky was darkening, a canvas of deep indigo slowly giving way to the inky black of night. The stars began to twinkle overhead, and a crescent moon cast a silvery glow on the cobblestones. Whiskers felt a thrill of excitement. This was his time, when the world belonged to the shadows and the whispers of the night. He made his way to the end of the street, where an ancient oak tree stood sentinel over a small, forgotten courtyard. Whiskers had always been fascinated by this spot. The oak's gnarled branches formed a canopy that seemed to shelter secrets, and the courtyard itself was a maze of crumbling stone walls and overgrown vines. It was a place where the city seemed to blend into the wild, a hidden haven that few ever discovered. Whiskers crept closer, his fur bristling with anticipation. He noticed a small hole in the base of the oak, just large enough for a cat to slip through. Without hesitation, he squeezed inside, finding himself in a narrow, root-filled tunnel. The earth was cool and damp, and the air had a rich, earthy scent. Whiskers' whiskers twitched as he moved forward, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. After a few moments, the tunnel opened into a small, underground chamber. The walls were lined with smooth, polished stones, and a faint, eerie glow emanated from a cluster of bioluminescent fungi on the floor. Whiskers' curiosity was piqued. He had never seen anything like this before. The chamber was quiet, almost sacred, and Whiskers felt a sense of reverence. As he explored, he noticed a small, intricately carved wooden box sitting in the center of the chamber. It was old, its surface worn and faded, but the carvings were still visible, depictions of cats, birds, and other woodland creatures. Whiskers approached the box, his nose twitching as he caught a faint, sweet scent. He pawed at the lid, and it gave a soft creak, opening just enough for him to peek inside. To his surprise, the box contained a collection of tiny, glass bottles, each filled with a different colored liquid. Whiskers was intrigued. He reached a paw into the box and carefully extracted one of the bottles. It was a deep, midnight blue, and when he tilted it, the liquid inside seemed to shimmer and dance in the faint light. Suddenly, the chamber came alive with a soft, melodic sound. Whiskers looked around, his ears flat against his head, trying to locate the source of the noise. The sound grew louder, and he realized it was coming from the box. As he watched, the other bottles began to emit their own colors, each one a different hue: red, green, yellow, and violet. The light from the bottles was mesmerizing, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the chamber. Whiskers' heart raced. He had stumbled upon something magical, something that transcended the ordinary. He carefully placed the blue bottle back into the box, and the colors began to fade. The melodic sound softened and then disappeared entirely. The chamber returned to its quiet, sacred state. Feeling a sense of wonder and a tinge of fear, Whiskers decided it was time to leave. He replaced the lid on the box and made his way back through the tunnel, emerging from the oak tree with a newfound respect for the secrets that lay hidden in the world. Back on the surface, the night had grown darker, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Whiskers shivered, not from the cold, but from the thrill of his discovery. He trotted down the street, his mind racing with thoughts of the underground chamber and the mysterious box. He was eager to return to the safety of Mrs. Eleanor's home, but he knew he would always remember this quiet, magical night. As he approached his house, he noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. Whiskers squeezed through the gap and found Mrs. Eleanor still in her armchair, her book closed and her head bowed. She had fallen asleep, a soft smile on her face. Whiskers leapt onto the couch and curled up beside her, his tail wrapped around his paws. He closed his eyes, the images of the chamber and the glowing bottles still dancing in his mind. That night, Whiskers dreamed of an endless forest, where the trees whispered secrets and the ground was carpeted with glowing flowers. In his dream, he found himself back in the underground chamber, but this time, the bottles were open and the colors swirled around him, creating a magical world that only he could see. When morning came, Mrs. Eleanor woke to find Whiskers beside her, his fur still damp from the rain. She smiled, stroking his head, and Whiskers purred contentedly. He knew he had to keep the secret of the underground chamber to himself, but the memory of that quiet, magical night would stay with him forever, a testament to the endless wonders that lay just beyond the familiar. And so, Whiskers' adventures continued, each night bringing new mysteries and discoveries. But that one quiet night, the night of the glowing bottles and the sacred chamber, remained the most special of all. It was a reminder that the world, even in its quietest moments, held secrets and magic waiting to be found by those curious enough to seek them.